Hello and welcome to Dopey, the podcast on drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. This is the first time we've ever tried to make a podcast and a YouTube video at the same time, which means I am joined by my special guest, Howard. Howie. What do you like better, Howard or Howie?
I'm the guest?
Right now, yeah, for the intro.
Oh, all right.
How does it feel?
It feels pretty good. I've never been a guest on anything before.
Okay, well, what share?
I feel like I should hold the mic because I see people doing that when they're a guest.
You've been adjacent to Dopey for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And for the past few months, you've been in the thick of it. Why don't you share some of your observations with the Dopey Nation so far of your experience around the doposphere?
Well, I appreciate you having me co-host.
I think that's a stretch.
or whatever this is.
Yes.
Banter.
Yes.
My observations are that I love the environment. I love the whole thing with the Dopey Nation.
You like that? What do you know
I like
about it? Do you feel any contact with the Dopey Nation in any aspect of your life, or even your virtual life, your online existence?
Yeah, I think some of the people that I've met through this, I like them. I like what I'm seeing, and I like that there's a community. And even though I don't connect with the subject matter directly because I don't have that shared experience, I like that there's this very familial feeling. You're not. I'm done.
No, I'm looking into the camera, I want to see what this look like. I'm with you.
All right. Yeah. So that's it. So I think
I also think you should be closer to the mic.
I should be closer to the mic.
I think you should be closer.
The mic is right here. How fucking close?
I want you a little bit
right
closer.
on the microphone.
Now,
yeah.
If the audience isn't aware, I've known Howie for, I don't know, 20, 25 years.
22, 23.
Something like that, give or take. And Howie, some of the audience isn't familiar with your history around drugs, addiction, and dumb shit. So why don't you share your credentials that, why you're on the show and all that? When's the last time you did heroin?
I've never done heroin.
PCP?
I've never done PCP.
Meth?
I've never done meth.
Mushrooms?
Never done mushrooms.
Acid?
I've never done acid.
Do you smoke fat blunts?
No.
Do you smoke skinny blunts?
No.
So have you ever done any mind or mood alterings? Have you ever had NyQuil?
I must have.
But
I don't remember.
How many times have you drank?
0.
How many times have you smoked weed?
0.
So what's your involvement in the subject matter? Just so we're clear about this.
I'm your friend.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated by the content.
Yes.
And the people.
Yes.
I have kids.
Yes.
So it's particularly relevant because, they're approaching an age where this might be an area that they get themselves into, and I don't want them to. Mm-hmm. So I'm very interested in prevention.
Nice.
I'm also fascinated by recovery and redemption and the idea that someone could, at any point in their life, decide it's not worth it and I should, change some things and get on a better path and have a healthier life. I think that's remarkable.
Well, that's another significant part of our relationship. When Howie and I met, I was probably 24 and he was probably 22. Or how old are you now?
I'll be 45 this year.
Yeah, so he was like 22, I was 24.
Yeah.
And I was probably, when we met, I was addicted to heroin at the very beginning. Huh?
I didn't know that.
But did you see me bomb out? Did you experience my decline at all?
I'm trying to think. I don't think I knew that. No. I don't think I recognize that at all.
But then you did realize it when I was out of work and
obviously,
at that
point,
and fired and all
I think
that.
I heard about it.
Right.
But I didn't know firsthand, and not because I didn't have any interaction, but probably just because I didn't know what to look for.
Just like,
I just
heard
assumed you were
Dave
always
is
tired.
Right. But didn't I have like a bong in the edit room? Like I was always stoned and tired.
Yeah. Well, the stone thing is, but that I've seen. So that wasn't, I'm talking about heroin.
So you just assumed that I was checked out, sleepy, whatever.
If you're not exposed to people who use drugs, you have no idea
what's
Unless
going
it's
on.
blatantly obvious. You have no idea. I didn't know what it looked like until Artie was
On the Stern
would
show.
talk about it, openly on the Stern show. And then it was like, oh, he's not tired. He's nodding out.
He's out of his mind.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah, it was completely. I was a moron.
Well, you were 22 and you've
Yeah.
never smoked weed. Like, why would
Right.
you know? Oh, it looks like he's nodding on heroin. Like, why would you
Yeah,
know?
I wouldn't know that.
You wouldn't know. But it's a pleasure to have you on board the team.
The pleasure is all yours.
And it is. I'm very pleased. Howie's got a little setup over here. If you're watching it on YouTube, you can see a little bit of it.
Right.
Why do you make yourself black and white and me in color in the video?
Because this camera is shitty and it looks better in black and white.
All right. Well, there you go. I want to tell, I have a little note I got and I have a funny story. What would you like to go into first? My funny story or my little note?
I would like, what do you mean a little note?
I got a little note, like on Instagram. Someone sent me a note.
Oh, like a comment?
It's a note, a
Like
direct message.
What the fuck is a note? Direct message. Got it. Go ahead. Let's hear that.
Okay.
All right.
On the 15th, on the 15th, the police came to my door and delivered the news my ex-husband, who I was still connected to through friendship, overdosed in his residence. The podcast was the first thing I turned to for some reason or another, mostly to listen again to Dr. Gabor Mate, but also just to feel at home with people who don't judge or stigmatize. My ex-husband was so wild, creative, and impulsive that his legacy will always be alive. Rest in peace to Davin. His Instagram handle is Davin Ever Made It, and it's sadly come to fruition. Keep making dope ass dopey podcast. Toodle to Chris and now Davin. So we want to say we're sorry for your loss and happy that we could be a place that you turn to. But that's heavy duty, right?
That person direct messaged you?
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty heavy. See that? You become like
A go-to.
Yeah, go-to.
Well, we are a beacon. We are a beacon for drug addicts in distress.
For lost souls.
Using, recovered, in recovery, normies, adjacent folk.
What's
like,
normie? Am
You're
I
a normie. And his
Interesting.
dog's name is Norman.
Right.
And
That's like the Amish call us English.
Right. Well, you're a normie. Somebody who doesn't use is
anything
normie.
but normie, but I gotcha.
And today we have a guest who is the most opposite of normie in the world. If you're a dopey, Nation regular or a dopey listener, or if you've listened to all the episodes, then you know this guest. He was a lightning rod in the Dopey Nation. He wrote a book called Wasting Talent. His name is Ryan Leone. He's going to come on in a bit, but I want to tell Howie a little bit more. Oh, here he is.
No.
Is that him?
There's Ryan.
Is it really?
Well, it's Slim Shady, but I'm assuming it's Ryan.
Okay, do it.
Just bring him in?
I guess.
Okay.
We have a return guest, one of my friends, one of my new friends. He's a fucking dopey legend, author. He wrote this book, Wasted Talent, and his name is Ryan Leone. I'm so excited to have him. There he is. Ryan Leone, what's going on?
Nice to see you again, Dave. Thanks for having me on.
Dude, are you so impressed with the dopey fucking studio or
Dude,
what?
Yeah. No,
Right?
no, the intro. The intro, though, that was badass. I was like, wow, that is really, really high quality.
Now, thank you. The last time you were on the show, you fucking leveled the earth. You destroyed the universe with your stories. And when I'm just going to read a little, I just picked up the book and I started skimming through it and I saw this and I'm just going to read a little bit and make him a little bit of beggar. And yeah, keep him big in the frame. And this is just this is how dopey this fucking book is. I just picked it up and opened to this. We got on an old yellow school bus. There's jungle music on the stereo. I sit next to Angie and Chad, guy slobbering on a pacifier next to us. He's like really feeling the jungle. Blair sitting a couple rows ahead of us and the bus reeks of clove cigarettes. There's a girl with a staff shirt pacing the aisle. She has a clipboard and is writing stuff down. The bus starts and Chad asks me how I feel. Before I respond, he yells, "How you feel?" I simply suggest more Special K. He says, nah. Bus calls for something even better. Blaze some Deemsters. What stirs? DMT. You're going to love it. And this is just like, you know, in the middle of the book. Chad hunches down to his sock. He pulls out a translucent gram bag. We're sitting next to a hot Asian chick. Bloated pupils with the pierced labia. Labia or labrea? Right.
Labrea.
Is it labrea or labrea?
No, labrea.
Chad asks her if she's got a piece, trying to match a bowl. I got DMT. And that's just one dopey passage from your dopey book in your incredibly crazy life. And I love this book, by the way. It's a great book. I have to say that before I say anything else.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And I met this kid recently who's going to go to jail on fentanyl dealing, and I'm giving him the book for his prison trip. Now, last you were on, at the end of the show, you were like, I'm messing with kratom, I'm messing with weed. What's happened? What's happened since the last time we talked on the show? Because we've talked off the show a bunch.
When was that?
That was, I want to say, like 18 months ago.
I don't know what happened. I know that, you know, like chronologically right after that, I'm not really sure, but I know that in January, I was going on Brittany Furlan's podcast. She's married to Tommy Lee. And so they do it from their house. And I was like all excited to meet him because he's like one of my heroes. I love Motley Crue. You know, I like grew up listening to it. And the night before the podcast, I went to go get my hair cut. And the guy that was cutting my hair is a drug dealer. And I was like explaining to him that I was going to Tommy Lee's house. And he's like, here's a free gram of Coke. And he just gave me a free gram. And I relapsed on cocaine January last year and just went on probably the worst relapse I can remember, at least in recent years. You know, I'm 36 now and I've been going for 20 years. This is probably the worst relapse I've had, you know, and I'm just barely coming back to earth right now.
Did you get high with Tommy and Brittany, or did you just get high before you went?
No,
you're not disclosing that information.
He actually had a year sober.
No way.
At least when I met him that particular day.
Wow. And so from where did the relapse go from there? From just the initial. First of all, when he gives you the gram, are you nervous? Are you like, this is going to fuck up all of this work? Because you're talking about a 20-year run. I just read like a passage where these guys are at a rave. This book is full of fucking, you know, heroin addiction, withdrawal, you know, murder, and your life has been in and out of prison. If anyone listened to the first Ryan Leone on Dopey show, they'll know. So like when you're talking about 20 years into the addiction and you get a handle on it, the barber gives you a gram of Coke. What are you thinking?
I'm one of those people where if I'm around drugs, I just absolutely can't say no to it. So I don't think I thought anything. I don't think I got nervous. I probably got like a little rumble in my stomach. You know, like that's what happens when you know, right before you're going to relapse. And even if I hadn't done cocaine that night, I would have stayed up all night because I was so excited to go on the show. It's like when you're a little kid and you're going to Disneyland, you know, it's like you can't sleep the day before. But by the time I showed up at their place, I think I'd already called the guy that gave me the haircut and asked for more. You know, I think I started binging out right there and then. And I got maybe like a month of cocaine binging, and then I stopped. And then I relapsed again when I went on the Bret Easton Ellis podcast. It seems that like going on podcasts in person, at least, has triggered something with me. I don't know.
We don't want this dopey experience to trigger anything. We want this to offer peace and fucking tranquility and good stuff.
Yeah. like right around that time, I've been working on the Mickey Avalon book, and I started interviewing a lot of his friends. Now he's friends with a very wide array of humans. He's friends with gangbangers from East LA. He's friends with Marilyn Manson. It's like just a very, very, very wide, long spectrum of different people. And one of the people that because Mickey Avalon grew up in a tagging crew called CBS, Can't Be Stopped, probably one of the most infamous tagging crews in Hollywood. And it's really interesting. A lot of people that were in that crew, the lead singer of Crazy Town, Luke Wilson, the actor, trying to think of other people. There's like a number of people that were in that crew that went on to be like recognizable people, Mickey Avalon being one of them. And I started going to this house, this huge mansion, and partying. If you saw the show that I did with Eddie Furlong and Nick Stahl, it was at that place. And for the first time in my life, I've always had friends, but I've never had entire like groups of people accept me. That's one thing I never liked about AA, is like I felt like it was cliquey, or like, I wouldn't automatically be accepted by everybody. This particular scene, I was accepted by everybody, and there was very interesting people there, MMA fighters, actors, musicians. That's how I met Suicidal Tendencies. And I felt like I was on top of the world going to this house, because I could go there whenever I wanted. And what happened is Karina, my fiance, knows that part of what I do is go out to network, and I think that's part of the reason that I've been able to sell screenplays. It's because I'm constantly, nurturing my Rolodex, so to speak. And so she kind of like let me do what I want, and I slowly just start like going out. Now I have more freedom, and I'm starting to do a lot of cocaine. And I go to Santa Barbara, and the guy that I buy it from smokes crack. I had a horrible crack problem when I was in my early 20s, and I swore the shit off a while ago, but I go to get cocaine from him, and it's in crack form. So I did it, and that was the beginning of the end for me. There's certain details I don't want to go in, because this is my current storyline on Patreon, and eventually it's going to get kicked out to YouTube. So I don't want to like spoil some of the crazy stuff that happened, but I accidentally shot 60 hits of LSD.
Well, hold up. First of all, we have to preserve the Patreon, but we also have to indulge the Dopey Nation and back up for a second, because you just said you injected 60 hits of liquid LSD. You're snorting coke. You're running around in this sort of very creative world, and most people are using or not using in the scene.
I'd say the majority's not using. I'd say the majority's drinking.
But they're chilled. But, they're not like drug addicts.
No, just like any scene, especially in LA, there's always going to be the small like pocket demographic of cokeheads that you see kind of like herd into the bathroom together.
Right.
And you can always spot them at a party, but it's not like overt, the guy that was like hosting it, he certainly wasn't a druggie. It was frowned upon by a lot of those people. So it was like hush, hush. But, when you're a drug addict, you sniff out, no pun intended, you sniff out the people that are doing drugs. And so I was like part of this like subgroups. There I go, like forming my own clique, the thing that I'm against. And I was like kind of with the druggy people. Now with those people, they were into IM ketamine, doing intramuscular ketamine infusions. I snorted ketamine maybe like 2-3 times in my life. In high school, I never really liked it, but I was going through a really bad depression. And I think a lot of that had to do with me smoking crack. When my second kid was born, I had been up for days, and I ended up like taking a handful of benzos, a handful of gabapentin, and I was like falling asleep in the hospital to the point where the nurse is like, dude, go take a nap. And I was like, and I don't want to be that guy that misses out on his kid's life because I can't get it together as far as, my addiction goes. So it started weighing on my conscience, and I started getting really depressed, and I was like going from like coming down off the crack to, being depressed, doing more crack so I didn't have to think about anything. It's just on and on, right? And what ends up happening is I go to my friend's house to buy a gram of ketamine. It comes in liquid, though, because they're doing it IM. So they mix it with this, like, special saline. I don't know what it is.
That's the infusion. They infuse the ketamine with the saline and then they intramuscle it. That's interesting.
It might not be saline, but it's some sort of like, unadulterated water, some purified. I don't know what it is. I think it's the same kind of thing that you use for like human growth hormone. That's another thing. I was doing steroids at this point.
We were talking a bunch in that period, but keep going.
Yeah, we were. I was shooting HGH, testosterone. I was taking Anavol sublingually because my friend works at Vanity Fair and was going to do a piece on me. And he's like, you think you can get a picture with your shirt off? Because I guess they thought it was like paradoxical to like be a literary guy, but like also be a bad boy. This is their words, not like I don't look at myself that way.
Don't judge. I'm with you. I'm with you.
The problem was I was in horrible shape, right? And I was like, and I told the guy, I was like, hey, I'm not what I was when I would do like my other spreads, where like I had a 6-pack and everything. I'm not like that anymore. I'm a dad now. I could care less, honestly. And so somebody had suggested, well, just do a cycle of steroids and get it right back. And I did. It took a month and I was like right back, but it had unintended consequences because I'm smoking crack on top of doing the steroids. And so it's just amplifying my depression. It was just so all encompassing because like I'm going through all these hormonal changes, plus I'm coming down off drugs, and like it was really vicious.
Plus you had just had your second kid. I'm sure you're feeling like, oh goddamn, I'm fucking this up. I'm on crack. I'm supposed to be this thing. Yeah, I'm sure the depression was intense.
And then on top of that, I do Patreon and YouTube. That's how I support my family. They're supporting clean and sober Ryan, not crackhead Ryan. And it's not like I can be like, yeah, I've been smoking crack all day when I'm doing my daily monologues or whatever. And it became more and more obvious with my Patreon family and my YouTube subscribers that I was fucked up, and people were calling me on. I was like, no, coming up with every excuse in the book.
Right.
And so I started doing these ketamine infusions because I was like, okay, this is going to cure. Of course, injecting a drug is the answer. Like, I don't know. That's how my
depression
brain was.
Was that the idea?
For depression. Yeah, because that is something that's being used right now. You can go get ketamine infusions, but it's like insanely expensive. It's like $1,800 for an infusion or something nuts like that.
And it's super regulated. They make sure the dose is precision, and like they make sure exactly how much ketamine you're getting. So keep going. I'm enjoying this story a lot. I'm sorry.
So, and this is like the storyline that's going to be on Patreon. This is so fucking gnarly. I go and I buy a gram of ketamine, and they put it in like, the same kind of vial that you would get steroids in. It's like you stick the needle in the little rubber neck thing, or like, so it doesn't barb the point of the syringe. And I go and I grab that, and I also had LSD in the same type of thing. So I go back to my place and I get a marker and I write K on the ketamine and L on the LSD.
Can I stop you for a second though? Hold up. You're basically, living pseudo recovery. You wind up seeing the barber, you get the coke, you get on the crack, you decide you're depressed, you want the liquid ketamine infusion to deal with the depression. But where does the vial of the LSD come from? Like, when did you get it? Like, I love stories about vials of LSD. It just
at some point, like, I'm the kind of guy, like, I don't know if you remember when we had like an LSD drought in the early 2000s. It was because this bunker got busted in, like, I think it was in Kansas. I was actually just with the guy that got busted. He got life in prison, but Obama pardoned him. And Seth Ferrante and I were interviewing him for Seth's documentary on LSD. It was very interesting to meet him in person. They said he manufactured enough LSD to dose the entire world twice.
Wow.
That's what it said on the indictment. Look up LSD asylum bust in Kansas, and you can read about this shit on Wikipedia. But, you know, when that drought happened, I'd always, like, you know, abused that stuff pretty regularly, or I did, you know. I'm trying not to do anything right now. But whenever somebody would have it, I'd take as much as I could afford, or, like, because I was, like, scared that we were going to go into a drought again and I wasn't going to have it. And as I've gotten older, I use it more therapeutically than I used to. You know, I get insights from it. I don't recommend that to anyone. This is just delusional shit that I thought was helping me, you know, when I was in the throes of addiction. And, like, now that I'm lucid again, I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm 36. I probably shouldn't be dropping acid regularly.
Well,
you know?
it makes me want to know, do you have some crazy cache of psychedelics? Like, is there like DMT and liquid LSD and peyote and some safe in some yard?
Yes,
yes, there is.
Yes, but not at my house. Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. This is not going to help you in the long term, just so we're clear about this, by the way.
I know. And it's not at my house. I'm petrified that, like, my kids could get into psychedelics or something. So, like, that's, like, one of my biggest fucking fears, you know? So it's just so everyone knows I don't have drugs here.
Before we get to the story also, I want to ask you something else. I want to make a proclamation. The thing about Ryan is that, first of all, you're an incredible writer, and you're prolific, and you're an incredible hustler, and your heroes are these kinds of folks who take psychedelics and write, who go, you know, Hunter S. Thompson, fucking Burroughs, like Bukowski, these kinds of people that go to the depths and come back with this piece. And I know that that's the cloth that you're cut from, but it gets me worried because you're actually bona fide. You're in that arena, but, like, it gets so bad, right? You know, we'll get there. My point is that you're of that world. So the fact that you have this, is it cachet or cash? What are you supposed to say? I don't know, stockpile of psychedelics. I always wanted one, but when I got to total absence, I was like, I can't. What am I, crazy? I can't handle it. But anyway, you got the vial of Liquid L, and you got the vial of K.
Yes. Yep. I was just, while we're talking about this, though, now, you know, last time we didn't have video, but you made me, I want to show, you've never seen this. I want to show you something. Just, well, I remember. That is Hunter's cigarette holder that Johnny Depp gave me.
Wow.
And only Hunter, Johnny, and myself have smoked a cigarette out of this.
Wow.
And that is, like, one of my most prized possessions. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but, you know, I wanted to, like, turn it into a chain. Yeah. Like, I don't think I should wear that every day, but
no.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to show you that because that is, like, something I'm very proud of. That's one of my most prized possessions, you know? And you're talking about Hunter, you know, I'm like an avid Hunter fan, and Johnny, hey man, you know, I'm passing the Gonzo torch to you, man. And I was like, cool. So
that's a good Johnny. So let's get to the vial of the shooting 60 hits by accident.
So, I get in this gnarly fight with Karina, right? Who's my fiance, and I left this stuff up in Santa Barbara. You know, this is where I keep my drugs. She's down in LA. I don't know. Yeah, we just bought our first house, right? So we just got our first house. Most of our belongings are, like, in boxes, and we get in this fight, and I take off. I'm tripping out. Like, we're just, like, in this horrible argument, probably because had our son been born yet? See, like, I'm still a little I'm not as like sharp as I was before. The 60 hits really. I had to go to the hospital. I'm gonna get to it in a second. But I go up to Santa Barbara to go. I don't know what I was doing, but I was like so hysterical. I was like in this heightened hysteria that I was like, I'm going to do a ketamine infusion to calm me down, because they do calm you down. So you got to remember, not only did I do 60 hits of acid, but I did 60 hits of acid coming from a very dark place, trying to like come out of that. Like, I'm sure, it was not the condition to do one hit of acid, let alone 60. So I go and I draw up 25 cents. Either 20 or 25 cents. I don't remember. I usually do between 20 and 30, but for the more calming, it's less, for the more like, where you get insights, the therapeutic stuff's like a higher dose. And then of course you can go into a K-hole. So you got to be careful. And I just stick it in my arm, no vein. I'm just, this intramuscular. It's better to do it like on your forearm where it's like shallow, right? Like that's where I've been taught to do it. Even though like, if I'm in a muscle, I usually go in like my ass cheek or like, up here. But I was told do the forearms and don't rub it, like just whatever. So I end up doing it and I peaked maybe within 20 seconds. I started tripping. This like crazy white light seemed to like just start like surfacing. I don't know how to describe it, but it almost felt like the ground became the sky outside.
Right.
And it just started like this light started like levitating. And I knew I fucked up. And I'm like looking and I have different vials and I'm like, oh my God. Like,
so you have the fear. You have the realization that you hit the L before the L hits you. It's like, oh, and then you're tripping. And then you're like done, right?
No. I had the realization after it kicked in. Yeah, no, it wasn't like I shot up and then I was like, oh wait, I did the wrong thing, because remember I had marked these vials. I put K and L, so I didn't think that. But when when this white light started rising, I was like, ketamine doesn't do that. I'm fucked, like. I think and I didn't know how much I'd shot either. Like, I couldn't like estimate how many hits that was or whatever. I think it was 25 cents. Later, we would go back and we'd do a drip test, and the vial has 100 hits. There was only 40 of them left. So we knew that I'd done 60. So what happened past that point, the white light, like it almost felt like I was being tucked into this light, like it was a blanket. And I like walked into it, and what happened next is up for debate, right? But what ends up happening is I go on a road trip, and I go and I think I pick up Karina and the kids, but I didn't. And I keep going, and I wind up in this small town, like I'm driving under the influence of 60 hits of LSD. Before this, I may have taken 10 at a time, which was like always really heavy.
What was the most you ever took? 10, you think?
Well, when I was selling it, we would get it in crystal form and we would do thumbprints.
Right.
Because when you get a gram of LSD, it's like it almost looks like water softener salt pellets or, almost like crystal meth. It's like comes in this like kind of like murky, whitish, pebble, and that's a gram. And what you can do is get your thumb and stick your thumb on it, and there's so much LSD because it's in crystal form, the crystalline or whatever, that it seeps through the pores of your thumb. And I would trip for like 2 or 3 days.
Right.
I don't know how many hits that would be.
A lot.
Probably something comparable to what I did, but I don't talk to my girl this whole time, right? Like I'm just tripping the fuck out, and I make it to this town. By the way, I don't really remember picking them up. Like it's the kind of thing where like when I think back on this, it's like fragmentary of what I remember and what I don't. But like at some point I'm with them, and we're in this town called Rialto, California. which is like this like shithole by San Bernardino. My cellie from when I did my state prison term is there. My other cellie from the feds, the South Sider named Chenny, he's there. They were really there, right? And right as I'm like meeting up with them, I go to say something to Karina in the back seat, and I realize there's nobody there. And I'm like it was like such vivid hallucinations that I had forgotten that I was tripping in the first place. And I was like, oh my God. Like at that point, I didn't know what was real and what wasn't real. And I saw my old cellies. They saw the condition I was in. Somebody fucking died. Like we heard this loud noise, bah! And there was just a dead body laying in the middle of the road in Rialto when I was with Chenny. Some pedestrian got hit by a car, laying in a pool of blood in the middle of the street. I don't even know. I'm like, is this real? Like, it was like just so coincidental that happened, but that really happened. And eventually, you know, I get lucid to a point. Like, I don't even know how I'm interacting with motels at this point. Like, I'm so out of my mind, but I'm renting a little teepee motel. It literally looks like teepees, the rooms in Rialto. Like, you can Google it, Teepee Hotel, Rialto, California. You see a picture, the rooms look like teepees and they're spread out. And I'm like, and my cellie sees me, it's like, Jesus Christ, dude, I'm like living in this teepee, right? And it was so wild. And eventually I get clear enough where I can explain to Karina.
How long does it take to get a little bit of clarity?
Like 3 or 4 days, man.
Right. And you have to admit,
until she disappeared.
It's so fear and loathing. You know what I mean? It's so like you're off and running, hallucinating people, waking up in teepees, coming. It's like that's like a crazy fucking story, and that's like the tip of the iceberg of this last 18-month period. What did she say?
Oh yeah. That wasn't shit. You know?
What did she say?
Kind of how it started. Well, first of all, she was very concerned because,
of course,
you know, I'm the kind of drug addict that she didn't know about the acid first, but when I finally got a hold of her, she was crying because she thought something had happened to me. I'm not the kind of drug addict to disappear. You know, in all my years of addiction, I'm not the kind of guy that disappears.
You come home.
I at least check in with people. Yeah, I come home. That's my MO, right? So she thought I died. You know, I mean, it's a pretty high probability that could happen. And when I told her what had happened, she starts freaking out. She's like, oh my God, like you might never be normal again. Right. You know, and she's like, you're already not normal.
Yeah, like you were normal before.
God, that's got it. And I'm still doing steroids on top of it. And then somehow I got a bunch of meth. Like in the midst of this, I think someone gave it to me and I'm just eating it, you know? And like I didn't have a pipe or anything, so I'm just eating it. And I didn't have any syringes. And so she, by the time she sees me, I'm so fucked up on the acid. And then I think the meth kind of kept it going, you know?
Yeah.
She's like, you got to go to the hospital. And so, you know, like her family got involved. It was like really, it was fear and loathing, although there's real life consequences with it, you know? And like, it really scared her. It really scared her family. They took me to the hospital. I was able to explain to the doctor what happened. They didn't believe me, you know? And I was just like, you know, they drug tested me. I come back dirty for meth. And they're like, okay, well, you're on meth, but, you know, there's no way to test for LSD. We're just going to take your word for it. Do you want us to give you the charcoal thing? And at that point, that's not going to help me. You know, it's like basically I had a standard observation. They got me hooked up, started pumping me full of the saline. Other stuff, like they were giving me benzos and stuff, or barbiturates. They were giving me phenobarbital or something to like bring me down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. They were giving me that and like trying to bring me back to earth. And I remember one day I was like so then they like brought me to like a psych ward to get evaluated. And I remember one day I just woke up and I wasn't tripping anymore. I was like, oh my, thank God. I mean, I thought that this was going to last forever. And there has been residual effects. Now, when that happened, Karina left me. You know, that was, and she got a lot of pressure from her family. They're like,
sure.
You can't be with somebody that's the, like, you know, the kids deserve better, which is absolutely true. I don't blame them. It's coming from like a place that I would want, you know, it's like, hold on, it froze up a little bit.
You're good on this end.
Okay. And so she leaves me, and around this time,
dude, you just cracked your neck
page,
and it sounded like bones were breaking. That was serious neck crack.
It was probably like LSD.
Yeah, little LSD was exploding into the capillaries of your neck just now. But keep going.
So she left me, and I got really suicidal, you know, like, so I decided to kill myself again. And I went downtown LA and scored heroin and relapsed on heroin. And that's how that happened. It was right after that.
Where did you go? You went to like whatever, 6th Street in Spring or some shit, or you went further east? What'd you do?
6th and San Pedro.
Yeah. I can't believe that spot just exists for 20 years. Huh?
Yeah, I said for all the listeners, don't go.
Don't go to 6th and San Pedro.
And so that started like a 4-month period of me. I have footage of when I shot the LSD, by the way. You know, and it's
save that for Patreon. Are you gonna save that for Patreon, or are we gonna use that?
It's already on Patreon.
All right.
It's on the $20 tier on Patreon. But so then I start doing heroin. I don't kill myself. I just get the heroin. I start doing it, and this starts the cycle of me going in and out of rehabs over the last 4 months. Not even rehabs, detoxes, and like me walking out, and then like I'll get sober for like 2 days, and then like I'll go back out. And what happened is, you know,
wait, hold up. How long was the dope run?
4 months.
Okay. And as soon as you did it once, you're just like, I'm doing this now.
I'm done.
Right.
You know, I do it once. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm a heroin addict again. Cool.
Right.
That's it. This is like, you know, I'm either going to go to jail or I'm going to go to rehab or, you know, whatever. And I just stopped working, by the way. I sold the screenplay. I think I told you when it had happened. I got this fat chunk of cash, thankfully. And it just like, I didn't have to work anymore. I was like, fuck it, like whatever, you know, I can live off this for a long time. And which I'm not saying is like, I felt really bad that I just like disappeared on people that were supporting me on Patreon and YouTube. But honestly, I wasn't it was affecting my mental health.
If you were doing Patreon about being a recovering addict and you're on dope and crack, it wouldn't have been good. It would only have been good if it was a Patreon on being high on dope and crack. Otherwise, it's gonna. The Patreon people are like, who cares? Like, just tell stories. We don't care if you're on drugs or not. Just put out content. I couldn't. I lost I was in a place where I couldn't do it. My mom, you know, started getting really bad with her dementia again. We had to put her in an institution. Just things were going bad. And what happened at the end? This is like the Cliff Notes, but like all sorts of wild shit happened. I was hospitalized several times for abscesses and. The last month of my addiction, I got into fentanyl, and that's when things got really scary. You know, that's when that's when there was an intervention, and they were like, look, like this is it, you know, like you're a ticking time bomb with fentanyl. They read all the stuff that's in the newspapers, and I don't blame them. I guess I don't even know, but I'd be on fentanyl and, you know, Karina would find me in my driveway passed out at the steering wheel, or she'd find me laying down on the kitchen floor or the bathroom. And it's like, what does that do to children? You know, I can't continue this shit. And, you know, I self-inducted on Suboxone probably 9 or 10 times.
throughout this journey. And then finally I was just like, I'm going to go to the methadone clinic, because it's so, with these like new Chinese analogs for fentanyl, with the cartel manufactured fentanyl, it's not like what we were used to doing back in the day, back when you were out there, where like you get a patch and you can cook it into powder or whatever, like you get the gel. That is not what this is. This is a research chemical designer drug that is synthesized by cartels or by Chinese scientists with the pure intention of making it an abusable narcotic. And what happens, it's weird, like they'll say in the news, they'll be like, all right, a grain will get you high, 2 granules will kill you.
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but what I do know is that, it comes in powder form. It's a hell of a lot more than a granule that, I'm smoking pebbles that are this big. And you just get addicted to smoking this shit all day, every day. And it got me off the needle. So I was like, oh, I'm doing great. People still kind of give you bad looks if you're smoking off tinfoil, but it like had gotten me off the needle trip. Like the people are so weird about it. Like a lot of my friends will not sell me fentanyl because they know that I'm the kind of addict that'll just die.
Wait, let me ask you. I have a couple questions. First question is, as someone who, like, when I did dope, the only fentanyl that was available were in the analgesic packs or the lollipops, and there was no fentanyl around. So as someone who reads about fentanyl and hears stories, I'm hearing that fentanyl's in the coke and fentanyl's in the tar and fentanyl's in it.
It's not what you think. Yeah, it's not that. That was my point. It's not. I know that you have been sober 8 years now?
6.
Coming up on 8 years?
It's coming up on 7.
6. But that's enough time though where you've been away from it. This shit wasn't around when you were out there. So I know exactly what you think when you read about it. You're like, oh yeah, fentanyl. I remember the lollipops, or I remember the patches or whatever. It's not what this is. This is a totally new drug.
But it's not. Totally it's not in the tar on La Brea, on 6th and San Pedro or whatever. It's not. They're not putting fentanyl in the tar downtown. Is what you're saying?
No, I'm sure they are. I mean, when I was out there on this last run, I had 4 or 5 connections that I was using that kind of like butted up after my relapse. You meet people along the way, whatever.
Totally.
So I bought some fentanyl test kits off Amazon, and I'd start testing the dope. It never came back that I was doing tar with fentanyl in it.
Right.
But a couple times, people be smoking fentanyl, and I hate smoking heroin. So they'd be like, here, you want some? And I was like, no, I'm good. And then I tried it, didn't really like it, tried it again. It was whatever. And the third time, it just got its fucking hooks on me. And I'm telling you, man, this stuff is so much more addicting than heroin.
So when you do it, so you're doing the tar, you're shooting the tar, and you have friends that are smoking the fent, and you're like, I'll give it a try. And how does it hit you differently than shooting the dope?
It's not like crack, but it's kind of like crack in the sense that I smoke it, I take a hit, then I pace around for a minute, and then I come take another hit. And it hits you, in a way that it makes you very tired. It's rough on the stomach. It doesn't have as much euphoria as heroin, but it's much stronger. And you get a much bigger bang for your buck. I mean, at the end, I was doing 1 gram of it a day, but I was doing 3 grams of heroin, of black tar before that.
Right.
So
you were saving money on it.
And yeah, 1 gram of heroin, I get 3 grams for $180. I get 3 grams of fentanyl for $150. So it was it was cheaper, and I was and so I started doing it, and that was it. That was where Trina and my dad were like, that's it. You use again, you lose your family. I lose my dad being in my life at all. He won't even talk to me on the phone.
How did they know you had switched from tar to fentanyl?
I'm very honest with them. And also, when I was using, if I was at my dad's house using, I don't use by myself, or I wasn't in the beginning. If I did a shot of heroin, I would give Narcan to my dad or to my girl and be like, hey, I'm going to do a shot right now. Come check on me in like 10 minutes.
Every time?
Okay, if I'm not. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Did they ever have to Narcan you?
No. Well, they didn't, but I was Narcaned twice in the 4-month run.
And how scared were you when you switched to fentanyl? Were you scared at all, or were you like, whatever, it's all the same thing to me?
I was pretty scared because of all the hype around it. Like my buddy took a hit of it recently, took a hit and was like, got distracted. So he kept it in, fucking went out. He kept it in for like 20 seconds, went right out. Bam. And yeah, my other friends had to give him CPR and everything. And then, there's people that have told me that Narcan doesn't work on fentanyl, like it's so strong that Narcan sometimes doesn't work. Like my buddy just OD'd recently and they had to use 2 Narcan spray hits on him, 2 different bottles. I think each bottle has like 2 hits in it. And yeah, I OD'd off it twice snorting it. This was back in when I went to film for my documentary in the Midwest. I relapsed out there, and when I came back to LA, I was still relapsed. And that was my first little mini relapse with opiates. That was like in the beginning of the summer, like I'd say June. And I went to go buy heroin from my connection, and he's like, I just have fentanyl. And I was like, okay, cool. Can I get a rig? I was asking for a needle. And he's like, oh, there's no needles with this. Right. I was like, what do you mean? And there were like all these like essay dudes at his house on the couch, and they're laughing at me. They're like, no, you can't shoot this, bro. I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean? Because I used to shoot the patch fentanyl. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, this isn't shit. I swear, dude, I did the littlest bump you could imagine. Snorted it because I was sick at the time. Not only did I get well instantly, but I started turning blue. Like I almost went out right there, and then I went out twice in a week off that stuff.
So
I was staying at my friend's house, and she had an Narcan me 2 different times.
What was the thing that got you from this run to the methadone? Like, what was it? Like, was it your father being like, that's it? Like, how many times in your life has your father said, that's it?
Never.
Really? Because like I've seen,
he's scared of fentanyl.
Yeah. Tell us about it. Cause I know your dad is like a fucking upright dude. He reminds me of my dad. I've seen footage of him in the doc. He stands by you. He loves you. So like, I'm surprised it took this for him to be like, what changed for him? Is it cause your mom's sick?
Yeah. Yep. Their dog just died. My mom's in an institution. He's all by himself. He has to put serious boundaries up so that, like, I don't think his heart could take if I died right now. Right. And I'm telling you, it's like a real possibility because this fentanyl stuff is just it's so much different than any drug I've ever been hooked on. There's so many different types of it. There's so much weird shit going on. I've heard stories where people are doing it every day. Same tolerance, take a hit, go right up, bam. People are crashing cars on it. It's just like, everybody looks like they're on The Walking Dead. Like, they're like, oh, at least I'm off the needle now. But it's like, it's really, worse. Have you seen the documentary Methadonia, about methadone in New York?
I've seen bits of it, yeah.
Where they were essentially turning people into like methadone zombies. Yeah. Just like, I
have to watch that whole thing. I love Methadonia. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, at least to the people I know, everybody's like, but okay, when I would do it, I could not function. I couldn't, like, we certainly couldn't have a conversation when I'm on it. Like, I'm just sleeping all day, every day. Wake up, take a hit, pace around, take another hit until I'm passed out again. A lot of times it was in the middle of my bathroom floor, or like, you know, my in-laws came to stay with me, even though we're not officially married, but my girl's parents, and they came to stay because I was going into rehab for a month. I lasted 2 days, right? I got in a fist fight at this detox, and so I left because I didn't want to get charges pressed against me. That's a whole nother story.
What did you get into the fight about in the detox?
So this detox I went to is like state-run, garbage-ass
What's it called?
Program. It's called Impact.
Chris went there, but keep going.
Yeah, a lot of rock stars have gone there. It's like a really hardcore program with a high success rate, right?
Yeah.
I go there. This is back when I was just on heroin, not on fentanyl. And no. I'm just starting to like dabble with both a little bit. And I go to this place and they give you 2 milligrams of Subutex after 20 hours. They give you one hit, or like one hit. Jesus Christ, I'm a dope fiend. One Ativan,
right,
as comfort meds, right? Clonidine, and then they give you 2 milligrams of Subutex. It was not helping me. I was kicking balls. Like, I'm like, I'm shitting and puking. It's coming out on both ends. I'm like, yo, you need to give me a higher dose. This is like, what the fuck? I feel like I'm in county jail right now. What's up? Like, this is supposed to be a detox. They didn't even take your vitals at this place. Like, that's how ghetto it was.
Right.
Like, they don't even take your vitals, right? And so the only thing that would make me feel better is curling up in a ball and taking a shower for hours.
Sure.
Literally hours at a time, right? And it's the kind of place where there's a bathroom in the middle, and there's like 6 bunk beds on this side with the room. This room has 6 bunk beds, and you guys share the bathroom. Well, I take a shower from like 10 p.m. to like 3 a.m. And I'm just there's probably sperm and shit like on the drain. I don't even care, bro. I'm like passed out on the drain. And the guy that's sitting, the guy that's in the room next to me is a Southsider. It's like 5 or 6 Southsiders, but they're like in their early 20s. They hey dog, you need to get out of the shower, fool. I need to take a shit, homie. And I'm like, nah. I was like, I don't even care if you shit. Like, I'm not getting out. Hey, fool, you're being disrespectful, dog. Hey, you're going to get mollywopped, dog. I'm like, whatever, you know? I just lay there. I'm butt naked, right? Curled up in a ball. And all of a sudden, this foot comes, like, in the curtain, hits me in the head. I'm like, what the fuck? And I, like, get up. I'm naked. My little dick is just like chilling right there. Yes. And I like run into the room and I'm like, what? I was like, who kicks a dude when they're naked laying down? Who did that? And like, it like the little, like the most Oompa Loompa fucking dude that was there, this little like munchkin. I did it, dog. What's up? And I was like, what? And I'm naked. I square up with him and we start boxing. And this dude curls. He's like I hit him one time. I don't think he expected that I could fight, you know? And I was just like, I was dope sick, but I was so angry.
Right.
Like, just everything I was feeling just came out in that fight. And yeah, I beat the fucking brakes off him, you know? And I'm not even like a violent guy, but
well, you hit your breaking point. Like, you were in the only place that you were going to get comfort in that place, which is a hot shower on the ground. Yeah. And he fucked with you. So I've never beaten the brakes off anybody, but I can relate to this story. Definitely. Now, what I want to know what were you going to say?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, please.
No, I was going to say, I hadn't gotten in a fight for years, man. And it like, but goddamn, like, my girl had just left me, and you know. But what I was gonna say, just to conclude this, the whole point of how I got on this tangent was I came back to my girl to our house, right? And she's there with she's at our place with her parents, and I just show up with my suitcases. I'd already relapsed on heroin. My connection picked me up, right? And it was so awkward living at my house with them for a month, right? Like, this is my place that I bought, and they're like kind of bossing me around, you know? And I was like, I started getting like, I don't know, like in my feelings a little bit. And that's when I started doing more fentanyl. And it was so awkward because I would just be laying in the middle of like the kitchen floor at like 3 a.m. with like Oreos next to me. And I would just pass out because that's when I started really doing more fentanyl.
Right.
It was just a mess, dude,
yeah.
You know? But anyway.
So when you get to the end of it and your mother-in-law or your father-in-law find you and they're like, Karina, how can you be with this dude? But they love your kids. And it's obvious how much you love your kids and how much you love Karina. What was the emotional switch? Because I can tell you're trying. I talked to you many times in many different conditions, and I can tell you're trying. What was the emotional switch that you were like, fuck, I need to make a real change?
Probably like when I felt the threat of her taking my kids from me and
right.
her, you know, like not to discount her and how much I care about her. When and also I had professional colleagues that were like, I can't work with you if you're going to keep being a dope fiend, you're a liability. But I think once I felt in my heart that she wasn't bluffing, that she was that her and my dad were like going to cut me off. And in my mind, I knew that would kill me, literally, like on a literal level. If my kids get taken, that's it.
Right. That's not true. We talked about that too, because you're going to rise to the occasion. Like I hear a lot of people are like, Ryan Leone's going to die. I'm like, no, I don't think so. I think he's going to rise to the occasion.
Jesus Christ.
Well, there's a death pool out on you, Ryan. I am not in the death pool for you. But listen, like when you are in the path of of great literary luminaries, and you've gotten a ton of praise and your work is great, and your new book is called Anti-Heroes and it's coming out in March, and I'm excited for it, and I'm sure there's a ton of people that are excited for it. But what I want to know is, how difficult is it to be this anti-hero, this outlaw, this junkie writer, this literary luminary outcast, like going down hardcore, and then like everyone's like, you have to be clean. Do you worry about keeping up with the idea, the image, or even that path? Like, are you worried that you're not going to be able to do it, or who will you be if you're not that?
That's a great question, and it's a very valid, it's a very valid concern for me. A lot of people hear me and they're like, there's no way that what this guy says can be true. There's just no way. Like, it's too extreme in so many different directions. You're not shooting 60 hits of acid and selling a screenplay. That's to most people, unless you know me, people that you know me, other people, if you know me, you know that what I'm saying is true. Like, I just get in all these fucking horrible situations, but I just go balls to the wall.
You're relentless. You're relentless in everything, and you will not. And even if you don't sell the screenplay, you're gonna come out of the fucking sewer with a story that's better than the screenplay. That's just how you fucking are.
But to answer your question, with Hunter, Hunter's like a big idol of mine, just probably because I like identify with the mania of him, and but the thing is that's an image, right? Like when I do videos on YouTube, that is an image. Like, yes, it's me, and yes, these stories actually happen, but I'm basically a caricature of myself, just like he was. It's like gonzo storytelling, right? And not to say that things are embellished, but a lot of like voices, like if I give like one of my characters an idiosyncratic thing, there's like a character Tom. Well, I may, like I have these like characters that I make up, or not make up, but like I give them like one-liners and stuff that they didn't really say in real life, but it illustrates exactly what kind of person they are because it makes you remember them. It's just a mechanism for storytelling. Now, looking at Hunter, who had a larger than life persona, Charles Bukowski, William S. Burroughs, people that I've looked up to. Yes, I often am concerned that I'm going to buy into my own illusion.
Right.
That's what Seth always tells me. Seth Ferrante, the director of the doc, he always tells me, don't buy into your own illusion. You can be that person, but when you go home at night and you're with your family, you put that person aside and you're your true self. Don't buy into the larger than life shit. Once you start believing that, it's a death sentence.
Right.
And I think that's what happened with Hunter. And also, I don't want my creative work to be eclipsed by
your death.
By just having a crazy life. I think a lot of people are Hunter S. Thompson fans that have never even fucking read a Hunter book. They're just like so drawn to this outlaw lifestyle, and they think it's so cool because it's very rare to have a writer that doesn't look like a child molester. Most authors are like with their turtlenecks and bug eyes and shit. And to have authors that actually have lived what they're writing about. I found that when I got into the literary world, a lot of crime authors, so to speak, didn't like me when I came into the scene. And but horror writers would, or literary writers would, and I was getting praise from my biggest heroes, but then the guys that were trying to make it in the crime writing world just didn't like me. And I finally realized that they were threatened by me because they're writing complete fictitious bullshit.
Right.
I'm writing about things that I've actually been through. So it's it discredits them to have this juxtaposition where the stuff I'm talking about actually happened. And they're talking about some bank heist with the crime boss and his henchmen.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a very I'm in therapy now. That's one thing that I'm doing. And I'm working on not buying into my own bullshit. I'm trying.
Let me say something really quick. Let me say something really quick.
Yeah.
Which is knowing, I've seen your YouTube videos, I've read your book, I've heard a lot of your stories, and I've also been on the phone with you when you talk to your son, or you pull your dog in, or you're dealing with your family. And the duality of the two is the most powerful thing. And the fact that you're changing to be there for your family in a way that your father was there for you is the most important part, which is why I think you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, it is. It is. My kids are much more important to me than
your image,
than my career. Yeah. And, a lot of people I think misunderstand me. They think I'm more narcissistic than I actually am. And it's just the caricature. It's at a certain point, I realized what really makes people upset, the shirt off, it's all a joke to me and to my friends that know me. We're laughing about it. But people are think that hold up the cover of the book. Right? Or do you still have the book? Yeah. Hold up. Waist down. Go to the back.
Oh, yeah. Sexy
Look at my
Ryan.
author photo.
Sexy Ryan in the back.
Look at my author photo. That's a joke.
Yeah, my wife was like, whoa. What's this book you're reading? But Ryan, you have to also.
But it's a joke. You get it, right?
Yes, but also you have to know, and I don't know if you know this, that you ride this line, but then when you're using, you're so fucking out of your mind that the character inhabits you, and the people that watch you are only getting that, and the joke is gone because you're gone. So you have to remember that in the narrative. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I'm very self-aware of it, but with what Hunter, with what happened with him, it's it got to a point where people didn't want Hunter, they wanted Raoul Duke,
Right.
They wanted the crazy fucking, and so he felt this pressure, he always had to put on a show. And to be honest, when I'm out partying and stuff, I kind of feel that kind of pressure sometimes. I want to be the guy. And it's so immature. It's such a, infantile mentality. Oh, look at all the drugs I can do. It's it's not cool. It's been killing people that I care about. It's been nothing but destructive and harmful to my life. And so it's and there's nothing wrong with telling war stories and like reliving it in that sense, just as long as you're not actually doing the drugs anymore. There's honor in being able to beat the addiction. And that's something that I need to like tell myself through self-talk all the time. It's like, it's still interesting. It's more interesting that you survive it. You turn your life around,
No, that's the whole point of this show.
I got our first house this year. And, when I got out of prison, I've only been out since 2019. We were on welfare when I got out. In that period, I was able to get our first house, and so I'm really proud of that. I provide for my family, but none of that matters if I don't survive, if I don't make it. And another thing that I've been like wrestling with is when I was writing Anti-Heroes, my new book that I just finished, and I'm going to be touring in March. I hope to do an event with you.
We're looking to do a Dopey presents Ryan Leone in New York City. So I'm looking forward to that too. Yeah. But anyway, keep going.
I'm going to be touring like 30 states, and I hope to see a bunch of fans. There's something really important about interacting with people that support you face to face, like in real life. Like it's an important part of it. When I was writing my book, Anti-Heroes, I was originally supposed to write it with Tony O'Neill. He was in the Brian Jonestown Massacre. He's like one of my favorite writers. He wrote a book called Sick City that everybody should check out. He's one of my favorite writers, and we originally were supposed to collaborate on Anti-Heroes and write it together. We worked on it for 3 years, and he's just like, hey, I'm not in a place where I can finish this. I was like, fuck, dude. Like, but I had my other books going and stuff, so he was whatever. And then Nick Stahl, who I consider my closest friend, he's like, I'll write it with you. Fuck it. Like, he offered. I didn't ask him. He offered. And so he started coming up with some great ideas. We just worked on Florida together, and now we're working on a new film together. And we're like great creative partners. I love Nick. I want to get him on Dopey, man, but
he's not coming. Don't come on. He's not coming. This guy's not coming. But our best to Nick Stahl.
He's got a lot of good insight on recovery. But anyway, so when I was strung out, I couldn't really make videos anymore, but I felt so guilty about not working that I just started writing, and I wrote an entire book pretty much in like a 4-month period. And it's the best thing I've ever written.
Nice.
Hands down, by like a long shot. And I've completed a lot of shit. This is my 3rd book. I didn't publish the 2nd book, June Gloom. I've sold multiple screenplays now, etc. This is the best thing I've written. And so in my mind, I'm like, God damn, is it the heroin that
makes you good?
The creativity and that's been a real tough one because I'm just not as creative off of it. It's all about a path. It's about learning.
It's about learning, and it's about diverting the ruts in our neuro fucking pathways. You're used to one path. If you get used to another path, you will carve out a different, ability to write. It's also the same thing as an ability to have a good time. It's an ability to be comfortable in your skin. All those things will come together, and you just need to be patient. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All that shit.
All these things that you have to kind of relearn. It's just like, I guess, and I definitely don't want to perpetuate that, that whole thing that drugs make you more creative, because I don't think they do. I think what in my instance, the reason that opiates were helping me creatively, it's because I have such debilitating ADD, and I think it just shut my racing thoughts down. So I think the answer with me is to get on some sort of medication. It doesn't have to be a narcotic that helps me with my ADD, because that's what I think it was. And when I'm able to finally sit down and focus, and I don't have to deal with these racing thoughts competing for my attention, I can actually, sit down and write a book, in 4 months.
But the flip side of that is... The flip side of that, because I've seen your documentary, that's where this all started, with medication for the ADD,
Right.
Like, so then it goes full circle, and it's like now you're off of everything. You're maintaining, you're on methadone to get off of it. And it's like, well, how do I deal with my ADD? And then it's like, I need ADD medication. So I say go slow. My big vote is go slow. Fucking give yourself a chance. I'm not against medication. I'm just against not using it not as prescribed. You know what I'm saying? I'm against anything that puts you in harm's way. I'm a pro Ryan Leone person, as you know.
Well, I appreciate it. I'm a pro Dopey person. And you personally, of course, because you have been there for me a lot of times where I'm like, I need help. I'm fucked. Like, I'll call you like in tears. Like, what did you think about the documentary? Nobody's really seen it. Nobody, you weren't supposed to see it, but whatever. Cat's out of the bag. It's okay. I told you we could talk about it. But Seth Ferrante is the new director. We've gone through 4 directors. I guess because I'm impossible to work with.
Well, you've used the whole time.
Yeah.
So it's now you're not using this version. Yeah. I've seen a couple versions. This version is by far the best. It's super compelling because you've had a fucking camera on you in so many different stages of your life.
And that's, people think that my shit's so hyperbolic and they think that like this stuff doesn't happen, but you watch the documentary, so much stuff was on film that you're like, oh my God, I remember that story. That you really have that, you have this, there's like, we have 5 terabytes of footage and it's, I think, I agree with you. I think this is the best rendition that I've seen of it. I've been talking to Ben Wyman from Suicidal Tendencies to do the score. So he's going to do the score. And I think that that's really going to add something to it. I love Suicidal Tendencies, but like to have that frenetic energy. And if you listen to, he was also in a band called the John Dillinger Escape Plan. And it's very it's thrash metal, but he's got a cinematic quality, and he's been doing the scores. Like he's been working with Trent Reznor, and he's been scoring a lot of movies recently. That's the direction that he's going in. So I was very fortunate to get him. Did you like the reenactments with Chester Bennington's son from Linkin Park?
It's crazy. It's crazy. The whole. He also kind of looks like you. So it's like you do a double take. Did he have an emotional reaction to playing an addict in this thing? Is he an addict?
He's not an addict, but his dad was.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Chester Bennington was an addict, and it's interesting because I've seen this a lot. I see people who had parents that were addicts, and it completely turns them off from using. And I hope that that's what my kids, that they see this footage. That's what that's the point of the doc. I want them to be so disgusted by drug use that they won't do it. I don't think he reacted emotionally to it. I think, he's 19 and he's very artistic. He's a great artist. I think that more than anything, he was just stoked to be part of a film project like that. We're like filming in a jail cell and shit. It's cool.
I'll tell you what the craziest reaction to the whole doc is, because I kind of have a feeling what's coming up in the next sections of the movie. And the craziest thing about it is that while you're making this doc about your crazy life, you're in your worst relapse you've ever been in. So it's like each section, you kind of crawl out of the primordial ooze and then you dive back in. And it's like, I want to see where you can cross the bridge over the primordial ooze and look back and not need to jump back in. I think that's one of the reasons that the doc is so fucking compelling, because every time you think you're going to get it together, you're like, fuck it. So we need it to go to the place where you're like, I'm done. You know what I mean? And this is what happened. This is the story. And this is where I'm at now. And I want to see you give yourself a break. Because you've done it enough.
I need one.
Yeah.
I need one.
Do you know what I'm saying, though? Every time you get out, you're like, fuck it, I'm going back in.
Yeah, I know. It's maddening. Karina shared some quote that she found online. It said, drugs destroyed my life and I wasn't even the one doing them. And that shit just hit me, man.
That's the truth.
God, what am I doing to my family? What am I doing to my, what made me tear up the other day? And if you get a chance to remember, go look for this. Josh Brolin. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
Josh Brolin just celebrated 8 years sober, and he did an Instagram post.
Here, hold on for a second. We got a technical problem. Huh?
Ferris Bueller?
Yeah.
Domingo Valdez. Hold on, let me see if I can hide this. There's too much disturb is on. You asshole. Must be some bug.
You good?
Yep. Hold on.
This was awesome, though, Ryan.
Yeah.
How come you're not feeling like this was a great emotional Dopey appearance?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, you got to remember, I just did a podcast right before this. So I was like, bah, 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 and then I come on here, I'm like, bah, 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 and I'm like thinking, I'm like, fuck, dude. Now I have to go do Al Prophet. It's just like, Jesus, like, hey, I am super grateful that I have that much opportunity. You know, like, it's always cool going on podcasts and like connecting with new groups of people. But like, yeah, it's exhausting too, man. Like,
No, I know.
You know, it's like, it wouldn't be tipped normally, right? Like normally I have insane endurance. I could probably talk for 8 or 9. I talked to Johnny Depp one time for 14 hours on his birthday, like 2 years ago. 14 hours, bro. That's insane. Like, I've never talked to anyone that long in my life, but me and him are both just like, bah, 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 bah. But I haven't, like, I'm just coming back into making content. I haven't been on a podcast for, like, God, man, probably 6 or 7, 8 months, 9 months. And here I am doing 3 my first day back on doing them, you know, and I'm just like, I don't know. It's like it's taxing for sure.
It's like relearning a muscle. You good?
It is. It is.
Okay. So tell me the Josh Brolin story, and then let's wrap this thing up.
Okay, cool. Josh Brolin just celebrated 8 years sober, and typically when celebrities post, I don't know Josh Brolin or anything, but I don't even know why I was on his page. I'm not like a huge Josh Brolin fan, but for some reason I found myself on his page and I read, honestly, the most beautiful sobriety date celebration I've ever read in my life. Josh Brolin, it's on his Instagram page. I was like, whoa, that's like some really like deep stuff, and I needed to read it the day that I read it, and I'm sure that somebody hearing me talk about this right now will go to Instagram.
Yeah, I'll check it out
you
too.
Go on his Instagram, it's like, I don't know, it's not the first picture, it's probably like 10 things down or something. I think it's like a black and white picture of him when he's younger, right. I want to say. But man, it's so beautifully written, and it's just so honest and just so, yeah, it'll make you tear up, or if you have a soul. I mean,
I have a soul. Are you kidding me? And I think I care about you because we're friends, but also because I was in a similar situation with my family, and like it worked out, and I'm really like my life is only great because I have them and because it worked out and because I learned how to enjoy myself sober. If I didn't learn how to enjoy myself and have fun, it wouldn't be worth shit. And I'm telling you, you will do that too. Like, I have total faith.
Yeah, man. No, I do, you know, it's been more challenging the last couple years, especially like when the following gets a little bigger, it starts going to your head a little bit. Yeah. You know, like all these cool things, you're with all these cool people, and you're just like, you know, and all the time people are like, you're a name dropper. And it's like, yeah, man, I spent 11 years of my life in a cell collectively, if you add up all the time I've done, dreaming about stuff like this, you know,
and now it's happening.
It to a point that I'm proud of, you know, and it's like, if you think that that's arrogance or I'm name dropping, you might want to look at yourself, you know, it might be your own inner failure projecting. Honestly, you know, I'm just proud, you know, it's like in real life, so to speak, I'd say that probably all my friends would call me a narcissistic, arrogant asshole. But in my mind, I think I'm not. But I think all my friends think I am.
How much did this last relapse challenge that? Like, how much do you feel like, holy shit, I've just gotten beat further down than I've ever been beat?
It humbled me. Yeah.
Talk about that before you go. I want to hear about that.
So, okay, Nick, right, is a huge AA guy. Huge AA guy. Always spouting AA stuff to me. Well, all right, man. You know, it's like, Nick, I just chopped my own arm off. He's like, pray on it, bro. AA stuff. And so I'm just like, oh man, like I'd be so anti-AA. And he's constantly, that's like my best friend. We talk every day. He's constantly doing step stuff. Like, you know, he's like, here. And it's like, kind of like, you know, force feeding it to me, so to speak. The first step, the powerlessness, I always thought that I had power. You know, I was always like, okay, well, yeah, like it fucks my life up, but I have power. Like if I wanted to, I really like deep down, I could stop, but I don't want to stop. This last run made me completely realize what that actually means to be powerless, because there were so many nights that I wanted to stop and I couldn't.
Right.
And I was frustrated. I cried a lot. I'm not a crier, but I cried a lot over the last 4 months because it was so frustrating. It's like, you know, you want to be a good dad, you know, you want to be a good partner, you want to be a good son and friend. And when you're doing drugs like that, you lose that ability, you lose that control. And since I acknowledged that first step now, it humbled me to a point where I think I could do AA. And I think I'm in a place where I should do AA. But it's so funny, man, that first step is like so basic, but it's such a, you know, seemingly insurmountable barrier to get over for some people. For me, it took years, it took 20 years of addiction to be like, I'm powerless.
Right.
I have no power, you know. That doesn't excuse or justify drug use.
Right.
You know, but at least it kind of informs that this is a problem that I need to stay proactive about. I need to take preemptive steps to stay away and stay off of drugs. And knowing that I'm powerless, what do I need to do to not put myself in a situation where I'm going to have to test that theory again? You know, it's like staying the hell away from people that are doing it, having structure, and working on some of the root issues that get you there in the first place. You know? I
never wanted to do 12-step at all. I always was disgusted with the whole thing, but I really needed help. And I'm not the kind of person that can build like something out of my mind. You know, I need someone to tell me how to do it. And with 12-step, with AA, it was like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And you get that if you do it correctly. And I was like, fuck it. And I did it and it really worked. So that's, I think if you give it a chance, it works. I don't like to be like the weird proselytizing person. I just know how bad my life was before I got into it, and just doing it, you know, I never expected to be this kind of a person now. That's all. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's like, you know, it's hard for me to, like, you're so well adjusted now, or like seemingly so. You have patience, you can listen, shit like that. You can dispense good and valuable advice. It's even hard for me to like look at you and like be like, oh yeah, he was shooting heroin or he was smoking crack or whatever. And when I had 3 years sober, people would say that about me. You know, they'd be like, I can't even imagine you on drugs. So it's like,
right.
You know, the further you get away from that, the less that you're like compartmentalized as that person, because you've evolved past it, you know, but you can't get too confident and think that you beat it. You know, you got to always know that this is there and this is something you need to, like, if you appreciate your life, that's why gratitude is such an important part of recovery. It's like, if you value your life and you're grateful for the shit you have, you need to put in work to keep it.
But I'm also grateful to hear your fucked up stories. I'm grateful to tell my own fucked up stories. It's all just pieces of the bigger life puzzle or whatever. They're all pieces. It's like you said, when you can tell the stories and not do the stories, and we're allowed to do that, I really appreciate you coming on and getting fucking raw about this thing. I cannot wait to read Antiheroes, and we'll have you back again. I cannot wait to see you in New York, and we'll go to a spot and you'll do a reading. We'll do some shit, have a nice dinner. We have some coffee, not get fucked up on your psychedelic cachet, and survive.
Yeah, no, we will.
All right, Ryan.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, bro.
Dude, whenever you want.
Have a good time.
All right, well, that was Ryan Leone. Ryan Leone always puts me through the ringer. Howie, as someone who's, as we established, a very bona fide normie,
right?
What do you take away from an interview like that?
Well, the first thing is I want to hear more about his deal. Who are you looking at?
I was looking at you on the screen.
Christ, having a conversation.
We look at each other through the screens. You're looking at me.
I'm gonna look at a laptop.
I'm looking at the iPad, and I still see. You feel better like this.
I don't know.
But at my profile, you get my big Jewy nose like this.
That's what she said.
Do you know that?
Yeah.
Recently, they accused J.K. Rowling of being anti-Semitic because of the goblins.
Yeah.
And I have to think
Jon Stewart's take on it.
And I think he's right. Well, let's unpack that before we unpack Ryan Leone.
Okay. Good.
No. Let's unpack Ryan Leone.
Oh, okay.
What do you want to know about him?
No, I just don't know enough about his
Can you
backstory.
imagine injecting 60 doses of liquid LSD?
I can't imagine doing anything that he talked about. But what's sad is, he's got this family and the loving fiance and the kids and everything and the father, and it sort of breaks your heart that it's like he can't help himself. But I guess that's addiction.
No. You're looking at it in an inverted my father-esque kind of way.
Oh, okay.
You need to look at it as he's alive.
Yeah.
He's survived. He can really climb out of the primordial.
I hope so.
He's got hope, and let's hope he doesn't waste his talents.
Saying. Yeah, it sounds like if he can get past it, that's where he wants to be.
But
Keeps getting drawn back in. Sucks.
It's like, take it from me, because I be living proof as I kick the truth to the young addict youth. Do you know that quote?
Britney Spears.
No, who is that?
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's some old rap song. Take it from me, because I be living proof, because I kick the truth to the young black youth. You know that song?
The only thing I can think of is
Britney Spears?
Britney or Vanilla Ice or something.
Oh, God.
It might be Vanilla Ice.
It's not Vanilla Ice. You gotta edit this. We have to edit. It's not Meatloaf. Oh. We have to edit this part out.
Sure.
The point is, as somebody who's been, I've never shot 60 doses, and I've never done half of the shit that Ryan Leone did, but I was down and out, and I didn't have my family.
Yeah.
And I know a ton of people who aren't shooting 60 doses or going as far as Ryan, but they were at the bottom, and they managed to get some recovery. Yeah. And he has all the most important things in place, which is love and hope, but it's deep. That's deep, rough. Fucking crazy story. I would love to hear the Dopey Nation's opinion. Last time Ryan Leone was on, he was a powder keg of controversy. A powder keg of controversy. He had a story about I'm not even gonna tell the story. Oh, I'll tell it, but my friend Ray, who refuses to ever come on the show again.
Right. Sure, nasty Joe.
It's a complicated. It's a sticky wicket.
I just made that up.
But Ryan wrote in his book that he sold so many drugs. He, instead of keeping cash in his house, he kept Andy Warhol lithographs, and he put them on the wall. And Ray Brown commented that Andy Warhol paintings were super expensive, but he didn't know that Ryan was in Dopey Nation, and Ryan said something to Ray, and then there was this huge beef on Dopey Nation between Ryan and Ray, and in Dopey Nation, everyone jumped to Ray's side, and there was this huge controversy.
Oh boy!
So now Ryan has made his triumphant return, and I hope Ray does soon too. And
Ray will be back.
You think so?
I hope so.
You think Ray will be back? I don't know. I hope. I still talk to Ray.
You want me to call Ray?
I would love a Ray conciliation on the show.
I love Ray.
Dopey needs Ray. And maybe Ray needs Dopey too. But that's not the point.
Let's get Ray and Ryan on the show.
Oh, that would be a sick Patreon special for sure. I don't remember what I was talking about. I don't remember the point. Do you remember what the point was? Oh, the point was that Ryan was this controversial figure.
Yeah.
And for him to come back and be honest and humbled, I think it was something. Dopey Nation, right. I can't wait to hear your reaction to that. Now, Howie, before we go, I want to tell you a funny story that happened to me at Katz's, which two things that happened. Like after I was on Mark Maron, I returned to Katz's hoping that I would be lauded as the returning hero.
You were hoping that the people that work at Katz's listen to you on Mark Maron?
Something. I was hoping something heroic would happen. I walk in, the boss didn't, I don't think Jake listened.
No.
To this day.
Why does he care?
None of the managers listened.
No.
But then one of the meat cutters pulled me aside and he goes, really good job on Mark Maron. And I was like, it's great.
That's all you needed.
And then this guy, William, who I believe is Nigerian, who works on the hot dogs.
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm just painting a picture. He calls me over and do I have to admit that he's Nigerian?
I don't know. Are you allowed to say that?
I think so. Nigerian?
I don't know. All right.
It's a country in Africa. He calls me over and he says, I'm not going to do my Nigerian accent. He says, David, I will do my Nigerian accent is very similar to my Egyptian accent. He says, David, you must teach me how to make a podcast. And I said, how am I going to teach you how to make a podcast? I said,
what is this podcast going to be about?
He wants it to be about American politics. William. And I said, William, you should do a podcast about being an immigrant from Nigeria. You should do a podcast about working at Katz's.
Yeah.
You should do a podcast about something you know. But I was kind of hard on William, to be honest with you. I was like, William, Google how to make a podcast, watch a YouTube video, learn something, record something, then bring it to me, and I'm happy to help you. But like, I think it's really funny. He's been asking me how to make a podcast forever. I was like, dude, just fucking take your phone out. Use voice memo. You can make a fine podcast on your phone.
Yeah.
You don't need all the bells and whistles.
American politics, you think?
Yes.
Or the politics of Katz's?
Well, that's the podcast.
Maybe that's what it was.
Waiting to come. Coming soon is the podcasts. Anything else you got out of this Ryan Leone business?
I definitely want to hear more. I want to read the book. I want to see the doc.
Since Howie's been here, I didn't make any real New Year's resolutions.
Okay.
But I decided that I wasn't organized enough.
Right.
So I've been working on this book. Look at this. You see this book?
I saw it. It's beautiful.
And it's all these notes and journaling. I've been journaling.
Whoa.
The journaling thing is, I talked to this guy in the Dopey Nation who journals. He said every day he writes 7 things he did, 7 things he saw. He writes 1 thing he heard, and he doodles something he saw. And I've been doing that. And I find that like maybe my brain is addled and whatever. I don't remember what I've seen in the day. I like remember an Instagram picture. That's how fucked up my brain is. But like today, it's just going to be you. I'm going to doodle you. It's going to be 7 things that we did.
I don't know if you could say that either.
What, doodled you? I think that's fine.
All right. That's YouTube.
What was
that's good. That's cool. That's a very therapeutic exercise, very cathartic.
I think it's good. I recommend journaling.
Yeah.
And then what was your take on Jon Stewart's J.K. Rowling Goblin anti-Semitic rap?
My take on his take, or my take on what she said, or what she did? Because they're 2 different things.
Did you just want to say that's what she said?
No, I didn't.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because I think his take was sort of like it was kind of like a half joke.
I didn't see his take because all I know is that the goblins in Harry Potter look like me.
They're slapped in yarmulke.
It's very happening in that movie. And I watched it. I was like, this hurts. It's like looking in a distorted mirror.
You thought that on your own without even. Oh, interesting. I never even thought about that.
So what was his take?
I think he basically brought up that point that it was the bankers.
Yes.
Right. And that
Jewy fucking goblin bankers.
But and maybe I'm confused because I didn't read the books. Because they're, what's the word?
Children's books?
boring.
They're not boring.
Anyway, I mean, come on.
This morning, Linda asked if you read
more than 10 pages long.
When's the last time you read a book at all?
I'm not reading a book. What, are they like 500 pages each?
No, but
right,
we don't need to hear. We don't need to hear about why you don't read books.
Why I don't read books. What I'm the
what's the word?
The thing,
boring.
Boring. The thing that confuses me. I love the movies.
The books are much better.
She didn't make the movies. She didn't.
That is a really good point. That is a really good point.
I'm assuming she has to approve everything.
In the books, they don't write. They look like serious Jews with big nose, and they slap the yarmulke. They don't. It doesn't look. She doesn't write that.
Aren't the books illustrated?
Minimally, no.
So I mean, obviously she had to approve everything.
That's a great point. So the filmmaker is the anti-Semite.
Right, and which would be Chris Columbus, which is a shame because I'm a huge Chris Columbus
I think
fan.
he's a noted anti-Semite. I think he goes to anti-Semitic meetings with Steve-O.
I hope not.
I think it's possible. What did you like of his?
Chris Columbus?
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen a film of his that I don't like. Home Alone is one of my favorite movies.
What else?
Home Alone 2.
What else?
What else did he do?
That's enough.
Did he do Babysitter's Club?
I don't know.
He wrote Gremlins.
He wrote Gremlins?
Yeah, he wrote Gremlins.
No, did he?
Yeah, which was produced by
Steven Spielberg.
So he's got to get along with Jewish people.
That's right. So I wonder who the anti-Semite
anyway,
is.
but I don't know. I mean, it's accurate. It's an interesting like take on it, but I'm not sure that. I don't know. I can't rationalize people who are like anti-Semitic. Like I don't get why anyone would care.
But you're from Queens.
Yeah, but I don't care about anyone's. I don't care.
Well, but you're
I
an
can't imagine
evolved.
someone caring.
Listen,
I'm going to make a bank scene, and it's very important that the tellers look like Jews. Like who the fuck would think of that?
Listen,
isn't it possible that someone just?
No, it's a world of hatred. It's a world of hatred. It's a world of, and everyone hates and fears the Jews. Didn't you learn anything growing up? That's all I learned growing up.
I don't know. I don't get it.
No, I'm actually with you on this thing, but the goblins did look like Jewish caricatures. And I was shocked when I saw the Jon Stewart thing because he double backed, right? In his whatever hot take, he wound up doubling back and saying he didn't think J.K. Rowling was an anti-Semite.
Yeah, because I think it was more of a joke. Like I think he was kind of coming from the same place. Like
it's a bit.
It's a little too coincidental that they have these features and they're bankers.
Right.
But to me, it almost seems like
the second I saw Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone,
you have that
on heroin in my loft bed in 2001, probably. And I remember how much I didn't want to enjoy it and then how much I loved it and the music and the snow falling and I'm high. And then I see the goblins and I'm like, fuck, they're talking about my big Jew nose and they're Jews. And yes, I felt it.
They didn't talk about their features at all, did they? In the movie?
No, but it spoke to me because I have such an enormous nose. So like, I'm very sensitive to seeing enormous noses.
Goblins.
You know, not goblins, enormous noses. And also just being on this YouTube thing, you can see how my nose got smashed in. Do you see that? Do you ever hear the story about how my nose got smashed in?
No.
Well, I was working at MTV and I told this story years ago on Dopey, but what the hell? I'll tell it again. I was working at MTV too, right? It was after I got fired from Burly Bear. And I was living on 24th Street, and my neighbor across the hall was selling drugs out of a safe in my apartment. And my neighbor at the end of the hall was an elderly Spanish couple with a son who was in the military. Mm-hmm. And every night, this is just the piece of shit that I am. Every night I would go to bed, I would watch a VHS tape of something. It was probably like a 3-hour long Simpsons VHS that I would watch, but my VCR was broken. So when the VHS tape would end, rather than just stopping, rewinding, and stopping, it would play static really loudly, right?
You just let it run.
And just for the rest of the night, for 6 hours or something. And I would be passed out on heroin and pills in my loft bed. And the poor, PTSD Marine guy next door would bang on the wall and I wouldn't hear. And in the morning, like he would see me, he'd be like, you got to shut your fucking TV off, blah, blah, blah. And then one day I'm in my bed or I'm getting high or I'm hanging out, whatever I might have been doing. And there's a crazy knock at the door and it's the old lady from down the hall. And she calls me because her husband had fallen. I think he was dying and he fell out of bed and the son wasn't there. Who knows maybe the son was an alcoholic. Who knows what was up with the son? And they call me and I run down to the apartment and the man is on the floor next to the bed. And I'm a mess, but still I'm,
cute.
I'm a noble. No,
okay.
I get down, I pick him up in my arms. I cradle the old man. I pick him up and I put him down in the bed. And she's like, thank you, mijo, you're my hero. And I'm like, it's what we do.
Right.
And the next, maybe 2 hours later, there's a knock at my door. I don't see him. He has a chair. He hits me in the face with the chair.
What?
I fall back in. I see it's the son running away. I fall backward. I close the door. I sit down on my couch. I have a bunch of heroin. I make the biggest shot I can make because I'm bleeding. You know what I mean? Like I have a black eye. Like he just smashed me with a chair. I don't do what Ryan Leone did. I didn't break the lock off this guy. What was the expression he used? I don't remember. It was a good expression. But I didn't do any of that. I closed the door. I went and sat on my couch. I took the biggest shot I could do, and it didn't hit me. Like I was just like whatever. It barely hit me, and I cried, like because it was so scary and painful.
Why did he hit you?
I think he resented me that I was there for his father and he wasn't.
But then what happened after? Did you call the police?
Nothing.
You just let him get away with it?
Yes. Nothing.
Oh, I would have burned his house down.
I wound
with
up,
the family inside.
I wound up kind of burning my own house down. That's when I burnt my couch burned and I threw my burning couch out the window.
Hit the wrong person.
And then I went to Florida and then that was it. I lost the apartment right then.
Oh, I think I would have killed his family.
Well, maybe you still can. I'm sure he's out there somewhere.
Give me his address.
It's 321 West 24th Street. And I'm sure apartment 9F or no, 14F.
I think they want that out there probably.
Well, he shouldn't have broken. I'm sure they're all dead. The parents are definitely dead. We're talking about 25 years ago and they were old. The son is probably an old man. Probably somebody else is cradling him right now, putting him into his bed.
I can't believe. Did you ever see him again after that?
Never saw him again.
That's very.
But my nose is all will never be the same.
That's what happened.
That's what happened.
Huh.
Well,
that's great.
Anyway, Dopey Nation, it's been real. Howie, thank you for hanging out. This has been a cool YouTube experiment. I'm also interested, Dopey Nation, what you think about the YouTube. People have been begging me for YouTube episodes, so we finally did one. Write us an email at dopeypodcast@gmail.com. Let me know what you think. Stay strong, everybody. Howie, thank you again. Stay strong, Dopey Nation. Fucking toodles for Chris.
Dopey, I'm face down on the floor. Dopey, please sir, can I have some more? Dopey.